Theming is another big part of the controls we have. On the phone, we enable the user to pick a theme that they want to match the way they feel. So we have a dark and a light theme, so a black background with white text, which you've seen in most of the demos, or a white background with dark text, and I'll show you that in a minute. And each of those themes has several what we call accent colors. There's 4 on the device. There's red, orange, green, and blue. And we let the user pick the colors that they want to match their mood, whether it's how they're feeling today or just how they want their device to look all the time. And the built-in controls that we ship are automatically themed. We integrate with the operating system to automatically theme the controls. I'll talk about how we do that. And we also, of course, enable you to use these themes in your applications. So when you write your own controls or when you put your own content on the screen, it's also really easy for you to tap into the theming system so you actually match what the phone looks like, and you're not always black on white when you should be white on black. So with that, let's go ahead and look at a case study of the button. So I'm back in Visual Studio, and this time I'm going to focus on the designer a little bit. I'm going to make this button align left, just for the time being, so we can focus on it a bit more. And I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to zoom in because I just want to show you some of the features that I was talking about with the button. So here's a standard Silverlight button, nothing special done to it, standard button with our themes. And you'll notice a couple of things. The first thing is that no rounded corners anymore. If you've been using Microsoft operating systems for a while, you know that every other release there's rounded corners, and the alternate release there's square corners. In Windows Phone, we've gone with square corners. So no rounded corners here. It's just a very simple, very elegant design. You'll also notice that although this white rectangle shows where the user thinks the button is, the hit target is actually much larger. It actually extends here where you can see the gray border. That's actually where the control lives, and that's where we will recognize touch targets. Another thing that I mentioned was transparency. So if we go ahead and drag one more piece of content into this application, let's say jellyfish, and then we set the background of our stack panel to be the jellyfish. You'll notice that the content shows through. So this is all about less Chrome, more content. Now this is cool because in the current theme, I have the dark theme, dark backgrounds, light text. The white shows up really well. But I'm going to show you an issue you can get yourself into here and how to get out of it in a minute. But first of all, I want to talk about theming. So if we go back to app.xaml, and we scroll down a little bit to where I hid the code before, you'll see we have here a bunch of resources. And these are standard Silverlight resources. These are all for colors. And in this CTP release of the tools, these colors are baked into the project templates. And that's so that the designer will work correctly. But what happens at runtime is actually we will load these resources from the operating system. So here we see that background color is bound to a dark gray. But if the phone is running in the light theme, this will actually be white at runtime. And the same with the accent color. Here it's bound to blue, but at runtime, if I change my device to green, I'm going to have a green color here. Now, in order to see this at work, we basically just need to comment out these resources. They're here in the CTP so that the designer works correctly, but they're not actually needed at runtime. So if you do this, the design surface will start complaining that it can't find resources. But if I hit Control F5 now, switch back to the emulator, we'll see that I'm currently in the dark blue theme. But what I can do is if I exit the application, go across here to Settings. This is one of the only things that is actually in the emulator build is Settings, so you can change themes. I click on Themes, and I say I want the light theme. And we'll see everything changes to light. And instead of blue, let's say I want green. So let's go back and back. There's the back key at work. And let's run my demo app again. And now instantly you see my app is no longer dark background with blue hyperlinks. It's now a light background with green hyperlinks. And that's because of the default work we've done to make sure the controls match the device theme. And here's the problem I kind of hinted at before. When I go to my details page, now my button color is black, because that's the theme for foreground in the light theme. And it doesn't really show up so well with the jellyfish background. And so the thing here is, we want you to show content, and we want content to come through in apps, but you have to be aware about how your application looks, both with different types of content, because if you let the user pick, they may pick a picture with lots of light colors, they may pick a picture with lots of dark colors, and you also don't know what theme the user is going to be using. But there's an easy fix for this. If we go back into the designer, go back to my details page, and look at the XAML. For the stack panel, if I just set the opacity, let's say to half, now I'll be able to see my buttons correctly against the background, because the colors of that image will be blended with the background color, which is white in this case, lightens the whole image, and now I can see my button. And then in terms of how you use theme resources in your applications themselves, let's take a look up here. At the very top of the screen, we'll actually see we're already using them in our page. So, for instance, we've set the foreground of the page to be static resource, standard Silverlight usage, and set it to phone foreground brush. And there's phone background brush, phone accent brush, phone border brush, phone disabled brush. There's all sorts of brushes you can use that map to the current theme. And so that's how you can actually make your application be theme aware. So that's a quick kind of run through of some of the nuances of controls and how you can use theming in controls and how you can also use theming in your app. So back to our PowerPoint. And on to the final section for today, which is connected services. And I'm going to talk about two. One is push notifications, and one is location. So push notifications, you've seen mentioned in the keynote. Charlie demoed it with the Major League Soccer app. And really, push notifications is a way for us to offload what traditionally would have been background processing on the device into the cloud. Right? You don't need to be using CPU cycles and memory and battery power on the device to do a lot of kind of processing that can really be offloaded to the cloud. So a push notification is a server-initiated communication that enables key background scenarios whilst balancing battery life and preserving user experience. And so this is what we mean when we talk about smart multitasking, is that we offload the multitasking to the server and let the user focus on the foreground application, give all the resources to the foreground application, and let you notify the user from the server when there's something that they need to worry about. And there's three types of push notifications that you can use in Windows Phone. The first one is a tile update. So imagine that you have an application that's getting photo feeds off Flickr or some other website. And currently your tile says there's 14 photos, and the last one was a picture of tulips. Funnily enough, it's on the Windows, there's a default Windows image, but hey, it's on Flickr. Something happens on the back end, a new photo gets posted, and through push notifications, you can update that tile to say, now there's 15 images, and now there's a picture of a koala there as well. So that's the first type of notification. The next is toast notifications. So imagine you have a weather application, and if the user is using the device, they can be looking at the weather application, checking weather, etc. But even if they're not in that application, say they're just at the start screen as this image shows, and the weather forecast changes, and the user has indicated they want to know about weather changes, you can send a toast to the device. Now, you know this is fake because it said it's sunny and 85 in Seattle, which is never true. But you can do these toasts that will appear no matter what application the user is in. And if the user clicks on that toast, we will launch your application, and then you get to do what you need to do when you're in the foreground. But to do these kind of things, you don't need to be running any code, right? You don't need to burn battery. You don't need to use CPU on the device. So we preserve the user experience, and we preserve the battery life. All the heavy lifting is done on the server. And so these two were about notifications when your application wasn't running.